Oh, welcome back to another edition. Switch it up.
Yeah,
Did you like that?
Yeah,
I really did. After 600 and whatever episodes, I think that's where we're at. Do you know, Cons? What we're at?
It's over 600. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious. I'll tell you in 1 second, but keep it going. Keep it moving.
Well, today we have a big show for you. We have Michael Cook is going to be on at the end of the show talking about his book, Life and Death at Abbey-Gate. Kate and I just finished up with that interview. Great dude. Did a lot of stuff during Digital Dunkirk, and some of it ended in success. And he talks about the government's failures. You're going to like that book, and you're going to like that interview. We also have some good initiative, bad judgment going on today. Lots of it, in fact, going on in the world right now. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about more women in the draft, because with the new defense bill coming up, some senators and congressmen, I think it's got 75% support right now to put women in the draft as well. And then we have another story about the draft, but it was a long time ago that there was a constitutional amendment that was up for debate, and President Roosevelt actually turned it down. We're going to talk to you a little bit about that. And all of that today is going to be brought to you by our good friends at BetterHelp.
Oh, yeah. If anybody needs BetterHelp, everybody knows I do.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
And this show is sponsored by BetterHelp.
Is sponsored by them, and I have used them, and I will continue to use them. We all carry around different stressors, big and small. Some of us just don't have a backbone, quite literally. It's crumbled, leaving us in a mental spiral, neither here nor there. But we keep things bottled up, and it can start to affect us negatively. I know I have gotten to a place, everybody knows about my physical troubles that I've had going on after this baby, where I feel like I've complained to too many people, and I'm like, I need to just shut up now and keep it to myself, because I'm driving everybody else nuts, when it's probably not true, maybe
Definitely
for some
not
people.
True.
And that's what therapy is for. If you're starting to feel like you're a burden on people, you're not, but it can relieve that feeling. You have somebody to talk to, somebody who's listening to you. Therapy is a safe space to get things off your chest and to figure out how to work through whatever is weighing you down. If you've benefited from therapy,
if you're thinking about
benefiting from therapy, they are the ones to help you shoulder some of these troubles. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. I know the last time, it was just a few months ago, I started flipping through again. You give them the spiel of what's going on with you. Are you looking specifically, I only want a man therapist, a woman therapist, this, that, this. You really whittle it down to what's perfect for you, and then you're given options and people who will reach out to you. And it's kind of like the perfect, it's like dating, finding the therapist that's right for you, and they help it, but without I'm butchering this.
No, you're killing it. And you're right. There's one of the things that I like about it the most.
That's what I like about it, is that I'm fucking it up.
And they're
Can we say this salvageable?
No, it's good. You're killing it.
Okay, help me.
I love it, the fact that when I talk to my therapist there, because with some of our backgrounds, like what we've done in combat and things like that, a lot of therapists will focus on that. Like they'll focus on the PTSD aspect. But when I got a new therapist, I was like, look, I don't want to talk about PTSD stuff. I don't want to talk about my childhood. I've done enough of that. I want to move on to my current life and talk about how therapy can benefit me now. Mm-hmm. And they listened about that, and I got the right person. And the first two people were not right. The next person I got, and I liked them a lot, and I've been with them for a long time. If you want to do that, just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/0 today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/0. All right. Did you guys, Katie, I know you're a Katie news lady, especially things that happens in Cons' beloved New York City.
Oh, yeah.
Did you guys see that portal that is in New York that goes to Dublin?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think this might be one of the most pure examples of good initiative, bad judgment I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, basically it's this big magic. It looks like a big magic circular mirror, and it's like 10 feet by 10 feet. And people in Times Square can look in through that big circle, and they see people in Dublin in real time at the same time. And it started out cute. Like I saw one of a girl in Dublin. She was doing the Irish dancing, and all the people in New York were watching, and they're like, "You got it!" And then people started pulling their penises out.
Yeah.
This is the trouble. We got
Yeah.
titties and
Yeah.
penises
So there's an
and all that stuff.
OnlyFans model who I think it's genius on
Yeah.
her part. Just like the one, I forget who it was. I think she ended up dating Logan Paul for a while when she was flashing her titties at like the NBA finals.
That was me.
Oh, that's Kate.
Katie Money Grabs.
Yeah,
I'm
Katie
still on
Money
there.
Grabs. Yeah.
Z at the end.
But a woman over there that has OnlyFans, she went and flashed her tits.
Mm-hmm.
Smart. Free marketing all over the place, like the New
Yeah.
York Post, all those different sites. I think we wrote about it.
Yeah.
All the different sites. I bet she has money coming in out the wazoo now.
But this is
Probably.
a tale as old as time. I remember when I went to IUP before I dropped out and joined the Corps.
Mhm.
They had a grove camp. They had this beautiful oak grove that was perfect for brochures where the kids would play hacky sack and such. And they had a grove cam where you could call your mom and be like, "Mom, I'm walking to class at 12:30. At 12:25, look on the Grove cam. I'm going to wave at you." And I would stand in the Grove cam and my mom back home could get online. This is like way old school. And
But
I would
see-
wave and she'd be like, "Oh my God, I see you." She'd be like,
That's
so
why this thing stinks.
Yeah.
It's lame.
It is.
I can
Okay.
FaceTime someone in Dublin right now. That's all
Easy.
this is. It's FaceTime. It's just a big FaceTime. If this was 2000, 2002, wow, this is pretty cool. Now, 2024, you just put a big screen with a FaceTime, and now you have people doing lewd acts in
Oh,
public.
it's a fun
inviting.
idea.
It's inviting people to show the worst of themselves.
And who
And
doesn't
it's
love a
not
little
cool.
cock and balls?
Cons is one of the only ones that has his computer by him. Cons, look up how much they spent on this thing for essentially a large iPad. I
Yeah.
bet it's a lot of money. And could you imagine doing this early 2000s? Is that when The Waiting came out? Do you remember The Waiting with Ryan Reynolds when
Yeah.
they worked in
Oh,
a
it's just called Waiting. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I put
Yeah,
the.
the
They
front
really
of it.
threw Kate off. That
It was
Ah.
2005.
really-
I think
do
it was
love to
2005, by the
I
way.
do love to correct.
It's how much?
2005 is what that was.
Okay, so like when The Waiting came out, yeah, it was very fresh in my Marine Corps career. Where people would do like the goat. You remember the goat?
Oh yeah, the bat wing.
Oh
the
yeah,
clear the
bat
ball.
wings, the belt buckle, all that stuff. Without a doubt, 2005, somebody's doing the goat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what would be fun? Put these in different barracks across the world.
Smoke pits, smoke pit
Yeah.
cans where you can smoke pit.
Yeah.
Maybe that would solve
Random.
everything if we had a North Korean smoke pit portal with our troops.
Omegle for the military.
Yeah.
Isn't that what it's called? Omegle?
Where you don't know you're gonna pull the
Yeah.
lever like it's a slot machine and it brings you up to another smoke pit somewhere.
Yeah.
That would actually be a great thing for lonely vets, where different smoke pits around the country have live cams, and you can set yours up in your backyard. And you light your cigarette, you pull the lever, and you're just smoking and joking with the boys and the smoky girls.
So basically, coronavirus. Like what we did at the coronavirus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was
Just
fun.
hop
We
it
like
on
to bring
Zoom.
That up.
You
Nobody
can't
said-
have this idea after COVID. Everybody's so like webcammed out. You can't do it.
Ah,
Yeah, and the
ah.
other thing is, listen, I love going to museums. I have an appreciation for art.
Oh.
Art is in the eye of the beholder.
Oh,
And classifying this, it's like I feel like that's like a catch-all sometimes that people do these sorts of things and they're like, art, you just don't get it. Like this is like an art exhibit technically. And I'm sorry, this just isn't art. This is just a giant iPad.
Yeah, we need to really redefine what can be considered art. I saw a
Right.
dude that was on TikTok the other day selling these big paintings that he makes for like $5,000. You want to know what his entire process is?
he takes the bucket, pokes holes in it, and just.
Oh no,
puts
that's
it on a
one
string.
too. Yeah, that's super lazy. This one's even worse than that because at least if you're doing the bucket one, you have to set it up, get the
Mm.
5-gallon bucket, put it in there, make the rope, do stuff. That one I kind of consider art. This dude paints tree branches, goes up to huge pieces of paper or canvases and just slaps the tree up against it and sells for like $3,000. He does it once and then that's it and it's art.
I usually can't stand the people because I love art. For a while, when my single days, like I spent all my free time going to all the museums around New York, and like
Even the Muppet.
the funkier and the weirder and the dumber, the better for me. And like I love learning the meaning behind. And I can't stand the people who are like, this isn't art. Anyone could do this, blah, blah, blah. But then I went to my favorite museum of all time, Dia Beacon, up in Beacon, New York. And Someday it's bucket list. You got to go. It's amazing.
I love how most people's favorite would be like the Louvre or the Smithsonian.
No,
and you're
View
some
Beacon.
random one in
I'm
upstate
telling
New
you,
York.
they had this massive exhibit. I forget the artist's name. Massive whole section of the museum dedicated to them. And what was it? Just plain white unpainted canvases everywhere. And it was like a statement about whatever. And I wanted to be like, no. And there's people walking from blank canvas to blank canvas with their hands behind their back, like looking at it. And I wanted to be like, what? Am I taking fucking crazy pills?
It's crazy though, the subjectivity.
Called BetterHelp the second I got in my car.
My uncle made a career as an artist. He was a sculptor. He was a painter, and he taught art for a very long time at the University of Ohio University. And his art was never really anything he sold or did anything with. He did art because he loved it, and that's what made him happy. Fast forward, he got married to my aunt, and because somehow in the art community, if you get labeled as someone that is smart or whatever, the appreciation goes up for your art. He used to sell his stuff for, few bucks here and there. I mean, fast forward, he was selling sculptures for hundreds of thousands of dollars. There are two pieces of his work are in New York City, outside of New York City in different places right now, that were commissioned for hundreds of thousands of dollars. He sold the same pieces 20 years earlier for like a couple $100. And I'm probably getting the numbers wrong.
It's all very
on the lower end,
yeah.
But it's so subjective. Like to what you're saying about white canvas, that's art. I don't get that. I can see a sculpture and okay, that's art. That makes sense. But don't give me a white canvas and tell me it's worth $10,000.
That's right, Con.
Can I tell you the new art thing I've been seeing on TikTok?
What?
For the ladies, fellas, earmuffs.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm about to say.
Oh, yeah.
You take a canvas.
Mm-hmm.
You lay it on the ground.
Yep.
Long rectangle white canvas.
Mm-hmm.
You have a good friend. Well, let me reverse for a second. You take off your breeches, your socks, and your underoos.
Yeah.
Just a t-shirt. You're like Winnie the Pooh, okay?
You didn't have to be in a t-shirt.
I prefer it.
Yeah.
You have a friend with a paint roller, like over a wall, come up behind you and right up your backside, up your legs, bottom of your feet, and your tuchus.
Cooch.
You sit, and only one of your hands.
Mm-hmm.
You sit down on the canvas so it's getting your butt, maybe some flap, hand, foot, whatever. I saw a patriotic one that brought tears to my eyes. It's a country girl. She did it in glitter gold, and then she did the stars and stripes over top of it. God bless.
Beautiful.
You know what I think is some of the coolest?
Proud.
Sure would.
You guys been to a sporting event where they get the guy who goes out there and in the matter of, I don't know, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, he's like slapping everything on the canvas and then he flips it upside down and it is very clearly something.
Oh, yeah.
Buddy, I've been to a church
the Iwo Jima one, right? Like it's the Iwo Jima one.
Oh, they do military ones and
Christ on a Cross was a big one at church camp.
I mean, my brain doesn't work like that. That you could paint something upside down and also make it look amazing. That's impressive to me.
Or just paint in general. Can't paint.
Yeah, just anything to where you flip it around and it's something. That's impressive.
Yep.
I can't find the cost of this thing anyway, but whatever it costs, it's too much. Now listen, if this portal can make it so that I can step into it and I'm in Dublin, then I'm on board. But until then, it's lame.
Bend a little time and space. Another good initiative, bad judgment that came out this week. There's another person that is an OnlyFans model, and she ended up getting a cop fired. How did she get him fired? By doing a little skit. The skit was that she was going to get pulled over by this cop, and she did get pulled over. And she had somebody that was in the passenger seat filming. And the cop comes up and he's like, hey, I clocked you going 60 and a 45. I'm going to give you a ticket. And she's like, well, can you not? And kind of pulled her tits out just a little bit. No nipperoons or anything. And he was like, look, that's not going to work. And then she says, well, what about if you give him a little squeeze? And so he's in uniform, in his cop uniform. And you can see what police department he works for because he leaned down just a little bit too much. Gave the old melons a little bit of a juicing. Next thing you know, he gets fired. And I got to say something. For as much as things go on where you'll see different stories about certain law enforcement officers that go outside of the normal scope of a police officer and don't end up getting fired. Like there was a dude in San Antonio that made a unhoused person eat a sandwich that was bread, shit, bread, and he got administrative leave for 2 weeks. This guy squeezed a titty consensually and he gets fired?
I gotta say, I almost want to defend him because I would say that's entrapment a little bit.
Well, it was set up, it was staged.
But I too was entrapped by a police officer in Indiana, Pennsylvania many years ago who dared me to throw a 40-ounce bottle into the street. And when I did, he flashed his badge and said, "Surprise." And
that is entrapment. That is.
I know. I talked to a lawyer. I only had to do a little bit of community service.
Oh, how much?
I had to go over to the jail across the street several weekends for that year and pretend to be a crackhead.
What?
To scare high school kids. Yeah.
At jail?
I never told you.
So you were like,
no. How the fuck
God.
have I known you for 7 years and never heard that story?
The Indiana County Jail had a program, like a Scared Straight program, where they would walk kids through the whole process. You start out in the courtroom and you've been arrested for drugs and whatever, and they're the whatever, and then from then on they get sentenced. They have to go through the county jail, whatever. And I had to be an inmate in the county jail and give this spiel about how my life has fallen apart because of drugs, and I had to do that for several times. Yes. I resisted arrest was the trouble. You can't swing your arms around like a helicopter, even if you're blackout drunk.
Wait, so you didn't get in trouble for the throwing. It was the other part.
It was what it followed. Once he pulled out his badge, I tried to cling to the front door of my rugby house, and
I wish that was on video.
It was, and then I've told this story on here before. And then I had just texted my booty call. He was on the golf team, Canadian, real snooze fest.
Oh.
And he had just also showed up. So I remember as they finally got me on the ground and they were putting my cuffs on, I see him just in the flashing lights of the cop car that had pulled up. We didn't have sex.
Disappointing that the golf guy didn't have good games. You would think he would with all those strokes.
Hey, man. Right? Let's cut that. Let's cut that.
No, let's stop, because I had no idea, knowing you this long, that you used to cosplay as a crackhead.
Yeah. I had no idea.
That's fascinating.
Should bring that back.
I got into
Seriously.
All right, let's move on to something.
Okay.
I'm just going to basically tell the stories today.
Okay.
So the new National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, has another provision. Last year, they tried to get this provision going with 75% approval in the House and a majority of senators too. And when that happens, and you know that the president, Joe Biden, would sign off on both of those things. When that kind of stuff happens, when there's support in both houses or both parts of the of Congress, you're like, how do we not have a vote on this to get it accomplished? It doesn't make any sense to me. The Major Richard Starr Act is that way as well. I think there's 66% in the Senate and like 80 something in the House that supports that, but they won't bring it to a vote, which just makes it look like it's procedure and political bullshit. That's kind of what this is too. So you have, I don't think it's that. How do you feel, Kate, about having women that are in the draft?
I feel totally fine about it. I feel totally fucking fine about it. I think if that were to be, there would probably be an option for women to opt into the infantry then, as opposed to they automatically, like, I can see men who get drafted, they don't get a choice or whatever, infantry or not. I can see if women were in the draft, they would get a choice and they would have to, qualify or whatever to do that. But I have no problem with women being called up to the draft, like, at all. There's a million. I feel like people think the military is 24/7 Rambo.
Yeah.
And it's really not. That's like the 1% of it. And so there's a million other jobs. And there are women who are badass who are doing infantry and crushing it now if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't see why not. I don't see why
Cons.
Well, not for nothing. We've been talking, how many times have we had stories about equality across the military in terms of women serving in combat roles, but just obviously women serve very admirably across the military. So why wouldn't they be included in the draft is my question.
Yeah, I think that's an antiquated thing. Like there's, I think the opposition for it was Save Our Daughters Act is what they want to say, that our daughters don't need to go to war. I would argue that your sons don't either. Like if it's important to send your sons, it's important to have everybody. And even if, like Kate's saying, even if it's a support role, Because in World War II, they gave you the option. You were either going to go for the draft or you could voluntarily enlist and go into your branch of service of choice. Like if you didn't want to go be a frontline person, you could join the Navy and be doing whatever the Navy did or whatever the infant stages of the Air Force was doing. You could do all those different things. You didn't have to go infantry. I think it's the same way here. If you really tout equality, everybody should be equal. And if you're an American citizen, you should be required in those desperate acts, and it hasn't happened since Vietnam, and those desperate acts where the country needs you, I think that you should step up no matter what gender you are.
If anything, it'll just make maybe make people care more about whether we go to war or not.
Yeah.
So I'm cool with that too.
I mean, that is absolutely true. You remember all the outcry after what happened to Jessica Lynch?
Yeah.
It changed the game. People felt really awful for her, and obviously being a prisoner of war would be terrible and all that kind of stuff. But they're trying to get that passed, and I think it should be. It's one of those things that I think it should be. But I also feel if that is the case and we are going to draft, and I think this is for even if they keep it where it's only men that can get drafted, I think there should be a more intense process for the country to decide when we go to war. Do you agree with that? Start with you, Cons. Well, what do you think? I guess let me rephrase the question. Do you believe that the president should have end-all authority to be the one that establishes through executive order acts of war?
Wow, really putting me on the spot.
I am.
My gut is telling me no. I don't want to give him that absolute authority, even though he is the commander-in-chief. I mean, because as it stands right now, I'm just trying to picture what we would even declare war. Like, who would we declare war against? Where would we go to war? So, but I don't like the idea of just putting one person in charge of that.
Yeah, so you like the Constitution. Kate?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Constitution.
I'm an idiot, and I don't, tell me if I'm not remembering this correctly, but like, was Bush the final say in like, we're going into Iraq?
That one was the first war resolution that was passed in Congress. It wasn't a formal declaration of war, but they came together to say, yes, we support. Yeah, we support. Not really decided, but gave financial support, not a formal declaration of war, but as close as you could get to that. And I think that a lot of people go ahead.
I guess
I was just going to say, by the letter of the law,
what does it matter?
We haven't been at war. If you want to go by the letter of the law, we haven't been at war since World War II. Right. Everything else has been an armed conflict,
which I think is bullshit.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I think it's semantics.
Yeah.
Wow, that was crazy.
It wasn't. It was just a pinky slip.
Yeah. But it's. I think that's why I say I don't want to give him full power. But also, how would that change? Because my question is, outside of maybe China or Russia, and even them, what other nation are we going to war with?
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. What I really wanted to talk about, because in 1916, it was the first rumblings, which was right after World War I, and as you know, like hundreds of thousands of people across the world, millions even, died during World War I. And so in 1916, there was some legislation that came about that was going to, not only does Congress have to formally declare war, but the American public would have to vote to declare war. Unless there was an act of aggression directly on the United States, then the president would have the authority to go ahead and declare that act of war and pursue that while we were waiting for a continuation of that act of war. And then in 1936, with a gentleman by the name of Representative Ludwig, he came out with this legislation that he wanted to pass a constitutional amendment that said anytime there was a declaration of war, America could not do it without the direct vote from the American citizen. Do you think, Kate, that should be something that we do?
I mean, it sounds, my brain's like, yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, our representatives are an extension of us and our choice. So I feel like should be the way it works. Yeah. But it's
the other scary thing is just to think about how dumb some of our representatives are, and to put whether or not we're going to war in their hands, that scares me. I would like to really, I would love the decision to be in the hands of our military, primarily our military leaders, primarily just because they're the closest to it. They understand the nature of being in war. Whereas a lot of, well, and credit to a lot of our representatives now who are veterans who do have that experience. But I think the best way to make an informed decision is having that experience. Do you agree?
No, I don't. I don't
Okay.
think that it should be up to the military at all. I think the civilian leadership of the military is very important, and it's one of the things that separates us from other countries that we would normally be adversarial with. I think that I'm not sure what the answer is because
I think it should be up to the stockholders of Halliburton.
yeah,
I think they're the ones who have our best interest at heart, which, wait a minute, is most of our representatives.
yeah. So in this legislation, they actually talk a little bit about that, Kate.
Yeah.
They say that Ludlow's original proposal also contained an anti-profiteering provision designed to spread economic costs and cap the war industry returns. That was led on the back of old Smedley D. Butler, who was the first Marine to win 2 Medal of Honor. He came out with a book and a statement, really, and really a platform that war was a racket. So bouncing off of that, that's where that provision came from, that nobody could profit on that. Now, I really think that this might have had some legs if it wasn't for the controlling party having both the House and the Senate and the presidency at the time, because the president obviously doesn't want to give up any of their authority. And you're not going to do that's the same reason why Congress won't enact term limits, because the people in there are the ones that are voting to get rid of term limits. And old Nancy and old Mitch McConnell and old fucking Strom Thurmond that has stuck around in 60 years. Biden been in there since the 1970s or 80s. Like, you have these people that basically have made their entire careers being representatives and being senators. I think they're the ones that are going to be like, absolutely not. We want that position. We want that control, and we're not going to give it up.
Isn't that crazy though, too? You think about it, that people say like, oh, it's service to the country. And it is technically, you're serving you're representing your representing your constituents from your district. But
you're also serving yourself in all
serving
kinds of
yourself.
ways. Look at those stock
those
portfolios.
stock portfolios.
and that
But
info,
you're making money off that.
Yep. Yes,
and I'm not going to say names. I mean, we know firsthand there are people in Congress that are killing time by playing video games, waiting for votes and things of that nature.
Shout out Duncan Hunter. I miss you.
It's not
He's still in prison.
I don't know.
He should
Rabbit's dead.
But really, is it like in the scale, is it really that difficult of a job? Like, sure, you have to eat a lot of backlash and vitriol, but you could also just not read any of that or listen to any of it and probably just ignore it. Is it really that difficult of a job to serve?
No, I honestly think that the president's one of the easiest jobs there is, because ultimately at the end of the day, you don't have to do a whole lot of research. You're going to have a team that comes in that you trust, that you put in place, that's going to have all the information. They're going to give it to you, and you have to make the final decision, just yes or no. And they're going to advise you. And if you're a good leader, you're going to take people that you put in their position at their face value. I don't really think
it's stressful, though.
The staff is what matters. The cabinet is what matters.
I agree with you, but I do still think it's stressful, because if you do have a conscience, you realize,
oh yeah,
okay, this decision ultimately does fall on me, and I have to live with that decision. So that part of it is definitely difficult.
And Conj, you're right. I think that decision, those feelings from the president, have to take place probably 5-10 years after you leave office. And I only put that in perspective of us, like former military people. 10 years after I got out was when I kind of realized, man, some of the leadership techniques I used were pretty fucked up. I could have been an even better leader if I didn't do that way. Imagine what that feeling is if you sent hundreds of thousands of people to war when you find out there was no weapons of mass destruction, that we stayed after Obama or after Osama bin Laden was killed, that we did all those things. That's got to eat at you if you're a person with any type of conscience whatsoever.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry, just to circle back to the whole, draft thing. I've talked to people about this many times, and I'm sure you both have too. I don't understand why that at this point we haven't developed a requirement, at least for 12 months, maybe. Yeah, I think 12 months is reasonable. You have to give some sort of service.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be the military. It could be any sort of service to the country. I think that would do wonders for
Sorry,
our
pal, this is
population.
the land of the free.
Yeah.
And if you don't want it, but I mean, I think that the idea is great to go do service of some sort, whether it's volunteering somewhere or whatever. But yes, it's a cool idea. But
Seth
freedom.
Moulton had that, like, because so
Yeah.
many people want college education to be free. He wants to extend essentially the GI Bill benefits to everybody if you do 2 years of civil service. And that doesn't have to be military. It could be working for your local government, it could be doing nonprofit work, it could be a litany of other things.
Exactly.
But I feel like if you serve your community in any way, it does nothing but benefit people. And it makes you have a little more skin in the game as far as civics across the board is considered.
You know what would
Yes,
make
and
people really care?
appreciation.
Yeah.
If we did the draft, both men and women, and the top draft picks are our nation's hottest people.
Oh, yeah.
We lose the nation's hottest people, we're going to start to get uglier and uglier as a country. Do we want that? Do we really want to go to war and become uggos?
I don't think so.
Across the board.
I don't think so.
And people would watch the shit out of that draft.
Oh, yeah. Another idea. You guys
Pick
on the
number
Yak
one.
could do it. You have the Yak come out with all, like, people are lined up for the draft. You bring out the wheel. Like, you're either going to go work in a local municipal government, you're going to be in the Army, you're going to be in the Navy, all the different branches. You're going to go through that. Or you get the wet wheel.
Okay, or that would be straight into the front lines.
Straight to the front line. You're getting wet,
Old meat
but the
grinder.
wet might be blood. All right, now in Zero Blog 30, we have one of my buddies, Michael Cook. He is written a book. He did a lot of stuff with Digital Dunkirk. You might remember Tom Schumann came on the show for a while. We talked about it with him, but Michael's written a book that is really good. So good, in fact, that I wrote a blurb for it. I was pumped to write a blurb for it. Yeah, it's the second one that I've ever. One of them was the enlistment. You guys remember that story?
Yes.
Did you ever see that, Michael?
No.
So
what is it?
The Enlistment is a book on, I guess, kind of boot camp or super junior Marine Corps life that was written like a recruit would write in a logbook at boot camp. It was amazing. No grammatical corrections, run-on sentences, everything. It was amazing. And he took one of my tweets and made it a blurb on the back of his book, and I didn't know until I ordered it.
It was just a Lance Corporal who wrote his own book with no punctuation at all, and it was terrible and wonderful at the same time.
That is not what Michael's book is like.
No,
Michael's book has good grammar.
Complete opposite.
Has a good story. Well, I guess not a good story, but a story that is told well. And it's called Life and Death at Abbey-Gate. Michael, can you walk us through kind of what you did and why you wanted to write this book to capture that moment in time?
Yeah, sure. So the book kind of covers my deployment to Afghanistan in 2019 and 2020. So obviously, kind of the end of the war. We were there when the Doha Agreement was getting inked, which was a very interesting time to be there. But the majority of the book is about me meeting the two main characters in the book, Mohammed and Abdul, who are contractors that we worked with over there. I was an engineer over there, so we worked heavily with the local populace, and they were two guys that I just really, made a good relationship with while I was there, and they took really good care of me. So the book is, a little bit about my relationship with them, but really it just digs into, August 2021 when Afghanistan falls to the Taliban. And my friends Abdul and Mohammed are, stuck hiding in Kabul and reach out and just looking for a way out of the country. So it's about just that, that digital Dunkirk network that came together to get out as many people as we possibly could in those short weeks in August.
And that time for you, what was it like knowing? Because a lot of times we see international news, like for instance, right now we see Israel and Gaza. A lot of us don't have skin in the game where we know people that are there. We know people around the world. This was different for a lot of us, is that you saw something that was a world away and you felt completely helpless. Is that how you felt, Michael?
Extremely helpless at the beginning. I mean, I remember sitting right here where I'm sitting now when I was FaceTiming Abdul right as the Taliban was on the city limits wall, right? And I'm sitting here with my mom, and Abdul's holding his baby daughter. And my mom is standing behind me and just has to like step off screen because she knows like what's about to happen. And she understands, the impact that this is about to have on this baby girl whose future is just being ripped out in front of her. She's never going to have a job. She's never going to go to school. She's never going to be able to leave the house without a male escort. So, I said, I don't know what I can possibly do to help. And that's kind of when I leaned into the Digital Dunkirk network and found that there was already people working behind the scenes to help these people get out.
Where, I know it's covered in the book, but to give people a snippet, where did you begin? Because this is the kind of situation so many of us knew Afghans there who had helped us in so many ways. And it's like, where do you even start to get help for them? Because so many of us were trying to do the same thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I started with the traditional paths. I reached out to Debbie Stabenow, who's a Michigan senator, and, her team was very helpful. Especially a couple of her aides that I worked with, they wanted to help, but honestly, they were set up for failure by the State Department as well, because, we went through all the paperwork to do their visas. And, Debbie Stabenow was trying to approve or expedite these visas. But the guidance that she was getting from the State Department was, have them go home and wait and shelter until they get a call from the State Department, right? Here we are, how many years later? They still don't even have case numbers,
Right.
So, obviously that was not the appropriate path. And I think I realized that right away. And that's after going down that road and realizing I can't send these people home. We just have to make a run for the airport. Their first run at the airport was horrible. Mohammed, kind of got roughed up by the Taliban pretty good. When I saw him a couple months later, he was still covered head to toe in bruises. So that's really when I took to the internet. I was just like, I just need to find somebody that can possibly help. And I just started messaging everybody, including you guys. And honestly, when I messaged you guys, I wasn't expecting a response in return, just because I knew you guys were getting blown up. But I was very pleasantly surprised to hear back from each of you in like 30 minutes. And chaps, you were the one that actually introduced me to Chris Davis, who's now my very good friend. And he wrote the foreword for my book. And Kate, you were the one that introduced me actually to one of the Digital Dunkirk networks. So that got me right in the group chat. And I was just amazed when I first got in that group chat. I just kind of sat back and just wanted to see what was happening.
Yeah.
And it was just amazed to see the information that was being passed back and forth.
No, yeah, I totally agree. And during that time, it was very intense. I know it was really emotional for Kate and really all of us, but those that had actually had boots on the ground in Afghanistan, it slapped a little bit different for you guys, kind of like when Fallujah fell again. It was really difficult for me. But the Chris Davises, the Tom Schumans of the world, watching you guys kind of come together from different spots, from different backgrounds in the Marine Corps. I mean, Chris is an attorney. Tom is now a lieutenant colonel, and you were enlisted, correct? If I remember correctly.
Yep. Yeah. So I was E5 at the time in the Army.
Yeah. So it's completely different backgrounds, but coming together to try to get this going. During that process, what was it like for you? What were some of the biggest struggles that you came across? Was there anything that sticks out of your mind? Like, damn, I can't believe we actually went through that part.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is like it was so personal, right? To all of us that had spent time there. And, you see stuff on the news, like you said, and it's just like happens in a faraway land. But this was like, these were my friends, that were left behind and were being hunted by a brutal enemy. And so it's just so personal. And I remember one night I just, after being awake for, 10 days straight and just trying to help them, I needed a little break. And I went and I took a drive and played hockey. And I remember on the drive, I was listening to one of your guys' episodes, and Kate, it was an episode where you just, you kind of broke down a little bit and cried. And dude, I burst out and just cried right there with you, like the whole ride. And I know like everyone that had spent time in Afghanistan was feeling that same way, that we were just so disappointed by our government. Right. I like to say, I was never so disappointed by my government, but never so proud of the guys and girls that stood in uniform there.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary of what it's like to be an American military member now, is that even when your country's doing stuff, it's always about the person to your left or right. And that doesn't matter if it's a foreign national. If they're with you, that's your battle buddy, and you want to stick with them completely. In your book, you also talk about the failures of the government. Has anything stuck out to you since you've penned the book about improvements, or have you been disappointed by things as they have like evolved over the last 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, mostly disappointment, to be honest. I follow the hearings pretty closely. I mean, there was just some new SIVs granted. I want to say like 12,000, but it's just a drop in the bucket compared to what's needed. So, whenever I watch these hearings, it becomes more and more evident to me that like this is an election cycle, and it's just back and forth banter of whose fault it was. And there's not really any interest in finding accountability or really finding out what happened. That's at least my take. It's just, it seems more pathetic than anything.
Definitely. That's the one thing I want more than anything, is somebody to take accountability and to make sure this shit like this doesn't happen again. But you just know in your heart, like,
it's going to.
it's
It's
never going to happen. It's going to happen again. Yeah. It's like, it's crazy.
For sure. In my book, I kind of do a deep dive into the DoD report and just compare that to what boots on the ground were saying. And there's just so many topics that just don't match up at all.
Can you describe a couple of them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably the biggest one is Sergeant Vargas, if you guys have heard his name. He was a sniper in 2-1 Weapons Company who was up in the sniper tower at Abbey Gate. Him and his team claim that they got intel on what the bomber was wearing and who he was being escorted by, and roughly what time he was going to be coming through. The same updates that we were all getting in the Digital Dunkirk chat. So it was, nothing crazy. He believed that he identified the bomber. He had multiple psychological operations teams and his leadership come over and also confirm that they believe that this was the bomber. Then the battalion commander got called up, and Sergeant Vargas asked for permission to engage the target. Battalion commander said, "I don't have authority to make that decision, and I don't know who does." Which was pretty wild to hear
that
from the battalion commander.
Yeah,
I hadn't thought about that in a while, but I was like, what the fuck do you mean? If you don't, who does? You're the commander.
So, I'm very inclined to believe everything that Sergeant Vargas says happened there. But, in the most recent hearing that just happened a few weeks ago, from the very top, they're saying that they never had a description of the bomber, and none of that information was ever available. So, just stuff like that. That's probably the biggest one. Another one is just that it was a complex attack. Every single Marine that I interviewed that was on ground that day said after the bombing they were getting shot at 100%. In the DoD report, it's saying that any reports of contact after the explosion were from young Marines who aren't remembering properly, is essentially what they said.
And that's such bullshit. And it's happened forever. I mean, looking back at some of the after action reports that generals and things like that said in the beginning of the Iraq war and Afghanistan over and over again, you would read like these high level reports of things that were going on the ground. And the people that are on the ground are like, that is not what we're seeing at all. And then in the report that you're talking about, there's fucking video. It's not like it's just word of mouth. There's video of gunfire.
Yeah. How, on a more positive note, how are your friends doing now? Like, what has happened in the years since?
Yeah, thanks for asking. They're doing so good. So Mohammed and Abdul are here in Michigan. They live about 30 minutes down the road from me. I see them
so cool.
all the time for dinner. It's super cool. Kate, I remember I think I sent you a message of all of them getting on the plane the first time and, getting out of the country. And we had a little bit of a celebration moment online, which was very cool. But they're here, and the kids are in school. They're playing soccer. The older ones just fluently learned how to speak English for the first time. So, after a couple of years of going over there and not really being able to communicate with them, I've now able to have full conversations, which is just wild.
Yeah.
So they're doing great. And, I'm just really excited.
Michigan accents. They're talking about hot dish and they love the Packers.
Call it like, can I have another pop?
Yeah.
But I'm excited just to watch them grow up and, eventually get to the age where they can read the book and just appreciate what their parents did for them.
Yeah, and I think that part about the parents is pretty important too, like very important, because you have people like your buddies that came over and were here, but knowing that they were leaving puts their extended families in danger. Have they talked to you about how they're feeling about that months later after being here?
Yeah, I mean, we were very careful in the book not to use any last names or anything, so we just used first names. We blurred their faces, so I think we did a fairly good job of trying to protect them as much as possible. But yeah, I mean, Afghan families are huge, right? And they still have a ton of family over there. Their parents are still there, and there's a chance that they never see their parents again. So it's it was a tough decision that they made to leave, but they knew that they had to for the betterment of their family.
Man. Yeah, it's hard to imagine. I can't even really imagine it. And like, you're reminding me of things that there was just so much going on at that time that you're saying that, and I'm like, oh yeah, Oh my God, that's right. Like I think I almost like.
It's kind of like a trauma response, really, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't imagine what it was like for people on the ground, but forgetting certain things, it's like, is my brain protecting me from remembering all that shit and how bad it was?
And I think
Yeah.
that's like the bulk of it. It's that like the moral injury that I think so many of us still feel. And so many people lost track of their interpreters or their Afghan friends. And so many people, so many veterans like have no idea. Did their friends make it out? Are their families okay? Are they alive or dead? Like, you thankfully have closure on at least two of the people you cared about, but like so many veterans don't have that at all. It's tough.
Yeah, we were the lucky ones for sure.
Yeah. And you did the work. I mean, again, yeah, it's kind of bringing it all like how crazy it was and like in the chat and what strings people were pulling. And do you have any major takeaways that you just wanted to share with people? Like any one main thing you want people to get from this book?
Yeah, I mean, I guess a few things. The biggest one I would say is that this still isn't over, right? I mean, we still have, I want to say, a couple 100,000 SIV applicants that are stuck. Many of them are very well deserving of, finding protection here in the United States. So I think that's the biggest thing. And, another reason I wrote the book is a lot of names have come out from Abigate of some heroes that did some heroic stuff, and it's well deserved. But there's a lot of names that hadn't come out yet of people that did some really heroic stuff. And so I was just honored to be able to, add to the list of heroes that came out that day and bring those people to the world.
How did writing this book and going through all the information, getting all the stories, how did that affect your mental health?
Dude, for me, it was very therapeutic, honestly. One, just to get it off my chest, but I think the biggest thing for me is when I was interviewing the Marines that were there, they kind of said the same thing as like, they're like, dude, I haven't told this to my wife. I haven't told this story to anybody. And they just like, honestly, just thanked me for being able to, come on and get it off their chest. So to see kind of that therapeutic side from them was amazing. But I mean, it was tough. Like the interview process with these guys. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I just sat there and like cried and just was speechless by the stories and just the shit that they had to go through.
And not just, I imagine it, not just sadness or sorrow, but there had to be some like you being enraged about what you were seeing and the nonsensical nature of it.
I think too.
Yeah, there was a lot of disgust, honestly.
Yeah, but it speaks to the importance of people like you, because everyone's like, well, someone's going to tell this story. You stepped up and told this story because, like we said, the government's telling a different story about what happened. And if it wasn't for people making the efforts to actually interview the boots on the ground, we wouldn't have any record of like what actually went down there. So huge shout out to you for actually putting in the work and doing it and telling the story that is so, so important. And
no, thank you. I mean, the news has moved on a couple times, right? We went to Ukraine and then now that's old news. And so it's really up to us as the veteran community to tell this story. And this is just one story, right? This is just Abdul Mohammed out of the, thousands and thousands of stories out there that happened in those short weeks in August. So I hope more stories come out. I hope more veterans write about their experiences there because I'd love to read some more.
Do you know what people can do to, you talk about the SIV applications and all that stuff? Like what can people do? Just bug their local governments? Like what do you suggest veterans who still care about this, which is a lot of us, like what can you continue to do?
Yeah, I mean, but bugging your local leadership is definitely helpful. There's a bunch of NGOs that have started as small NGOs separately that have now come together and are still working on getting people out as well as helping the troops that were on the ground there. Moral Compass is one that comes to my mind. They're a really good group of different NGOs that came together. So if you're looking for a way to help, just Googling them is probably a great way to start.
Yeah, okay. I've heard of that one. Yeah, I know that they are doing good things. Moving on, where do you see this going? Do you see from the reports that you're getting, the people that you talk to, do you feel like we're going to even really give this much attention, or is the government going to basically act like this didn't happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to continue to get swept under the rug is kind of the main answer to that. And then, what happens in Afghanistan is a whole different story. Al-Qaeda is back in Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda, Taliban, ISIS are all essentially the same entity at this point. I have a friend that is serving in the National Resistance Front currently, which is one of the groups that is actively engaged in combat against the Taliban, and they're making some progress, but they have no support by the U.S. government for some reason, and I hope that changes one day. But as of right now, we are not supporting the group that is made up of mostly former Afghan government officials, and they're currently fighting the Taliban.
Well, the natural next step is for Russia to start supporting them, and then they say, and then we come back in about 10 more years after someone gets assassinated. We'll do it again. We'll just
run it back.
But I'm just grateful for people like you telling this story, and definitely check it out. And is there anything else that you want to pass on or say, or?
No, I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, book's called Life and Death at Abbey You can find it anywhere you get your books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
And it's on sale right now. Saw it this morning. On sale on Amazon.
Or you can find me on Instagram.
Yeah, what's your Instagram?
There you go. It's a steal.
What's your Instagram handle for anybody?
Michael Cook 89.
Michael Cook.
Yeah, Michael Cook 89 is my Instagram.
Yeah, I recommend giving him a follow. Good pictures, good information.
MIKAEL.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Michael. Well, we appreciate you stopping by again. Go check out his book, pick it up, and even just go pick it up because he put in so much work. I mean, having a book out there, it's a lot of stuff that he went through just writing it. I imagine that process was incredibly difficult. And like Kate said, we appreciate you doing the hard work, not just putting pen to paper, but what you did along the way and being so vocal and putting out your efforts. Like you said, 10 days without really sleeping much at all and getting together with everybody that put in a whole lot of effort to do what we could. We appreciate you, Michael. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Or just go pick it up if you want to read Chap's blurb.
Yeah.
It's okay. I did read it and I was like, damn, I sounded like a legit blurb writer. That was good.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, Michael. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, let's move on to some save rounds and alibis. Connor, we'll start with you.
Wait, are we going to intro or are you going to do it separately?
What?
Our guest.
Oh, do it. Oh, yeah, I already did.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, you already heard the guest. So
my bad.
Yeah, good point, Kate. I actually got to put that in the actual podcast in the correct spot. So if it came at the end, I forgot to do that, and it's just at the end. So you're going to enjoy yourself for the next 20 minutes, or you just enjoyed yourself for the last 20 minutes. No matter where you're at in your journey, we are here with you as well. Ooh. Cons, where are you at for your save rounds and alibis?
Yep. So speaking of, actually, I did have this. Speaking of attractiveness, hotness, and what have you, if you had to select on looks alone, and it has to be somebody who's in politics, not, it can't be some random good-looking person because that would be ridiculous because there's way too many good-looking people out there. But on looks alone, who would you want to serve as our president? Just ignore Republican, Democrat, if they're a wackadoo or anything like that. Just on looks alone, who do you think would make a good president? Who's
I'm still in on
put
Sarah
them on
Palin.
TV and it's like, wow, that's a good looking president.
Sarah Palin.
Sarah Palin, I think.
No, not Sarah. I
haven't seen her in a while. But the Sarah Palin in my mind.
Okay. It's a weird answer, Kate.
Are you thinking Lisa Ann? Is the Sarah Palin in your mind Lisa Ann, actually?
It was the year of the Macarena.
Yeah, it was the year of the Macarena and the Furby, and Sarah Palin was hot to trot.
I'm trying to think of somebody. It has to be somebody in
somebody
politics.
Who's a reasonable selection. Like, first person that comes to mind, Mitt Romney. I think he's a good-looking dude. He's tall, good head of hair. Doesn't look overly old and decrepit. Looks good in a suit. I think he's a good choice on looks alone.
I say Sarah Palin, VP AOC.
Oh, I think for mine, Kate's really having a superstar show.
I'm getting kind of horny.
Yeah, I'm getting horned up too.
Oh.
I think Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, I think that guy's pretty hot and he looks strong too.
Dan Crenshaw.
Wesley Hunt, the former West Point guy. Yeah. He could do a good job.
Newsom's a good looking dude.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom's a good looking fella. Sadly, Marco Rubio, I think, looks like he's just been a politician his whole life.
I wish they did a sexy calendar every year.
Yeah, but my number one overall answer, just to strike fear in the heart of the enemy, Dan Crenshaw.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
man.
He'd be a great choice. He'd be a
Love
great
that.
choice.
You go
I
out
love
there with
that.
an eye patch. Like, listen, if you had, let's place Dan Crenshaw in the place of President Bush when he's sitting behind the Resolute desk after 9/11, and he's like, "We will hunt you down and we will kill you." If Dan Crenshaw is saying that with an eye patch and he's wearing his trident, oh shit, you better buckle the fuck up.
Crenshaw Booker, Cory Booker.
Yeah, Cory Booker's
two of
good
them.
too.
Cory
Though I've
Booker.
heard rumors.
What?
I won't say.
What's the rumor?
He dated a Hollywood starlet.
He's still.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, the woman that was in, isn't it the woman that was in White Man Can't Jump? Rosie Dawson.
Rosie Perez?
Yeah, is it Rose? Is it? Yeah, isn't that her?
it's either Rosie O'Donnell or Rosie Perez. Yeah, either
Some
one.
Rosie.
Potato, potato.
Yeah.
Some Rosie.
Some Rosie.
Rosario Dawson.
Rosario
let's do-
Dawson.
Let's
that would
do
be a good looking first couple. Rosario Dawson and Cory Booker.
Sure.
right, but they're not married, living out of wedlock. Sin. You don't know if you're going to
Yeah,
be
that's
able to
true,
have
that's true.
that. What about Hollywood person? If you could bring over
I
a Hollywood
mean-
person, and it can't not like Brad Pitt or Matt Damon or something like that.
Channing Tatum. I mean,
No, he's too. No, no. Who do I want to see getting railed in the Oval Office?
The coach from Glee. What's her name?
No, but she'd be good, Jane Lynch.
Yeah, Jane Lynch. Yeah, because she's tall.
And that's important.
Tall is
I mean,
important.
Absolutely.
President Bartlett, Martin Sheen.
Oh yeah,
He was
President
good looking.
Bartlett. Yeah, I actually he could do it. He's as old as Biden. He could do it.
I would love to
Same age
have
as him and Trump.
a real
Right.
goofy combo for president and VP that like won the hearts of the world, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito and twins. Like
That'd
two
be amazing right
complete
there.
Oh, what about
wild
this,
opposites.
Miss Rachel?
Hell yes. If
Miss-
you don't know, you should know.
Miss Rachel would be a fantastic VP
Mm-hmm.
because their
She'd be
primary focus should be on foreign policy and dealing with the Department of the State type of stuff. If she goes in there and everybody's getting out of control at the UN, she could give a phenomenal speech. Everyone, calm down, everyone. Take a deep breath.
Speaking of that, one of my other
Yahoo.
saved rounds. Did you both have a song that if you put it on, no matter what was going on, your kid would automatically calm down?
Yes.
Yes, dude. And I'm in the midst of it right fucking now. And it's fucking killing me.
What is it?
Let me give you a clue. I'm the scat man.
Oh.
Skibbity-dee-boom-ba-da-bup.
You're double
Boom-ba-
dope.
Have you ever heard this song?
You're double
Yes,
dope.
I know exactly what song you're talking
You're
about.
double dope.
Somehow he heard the 1992 song Scatman, and our windows are open now, and he plays it on repeat before bedtime every night. As he say, "I'm going to do my jumps and listen to my music." So he does cannonballs off the bed while I play Scatman
Smart
for
way
like
to go to bed.
30 minutes. Yeah,
It's a good way to get
I
ready
get
for
him
bed.
hyped the fuck up. But I'm like, do my neighbors just hear me playing the 1992 song Scatman? And it's about a man with a stutter who overcomes his stutter by scatting. And so the whole song's like, it's
I wonder if our guy Joey has tried that.
like everybody stutters one way or the other. So check out my message to you. As a matter of fact, don't let nothing hold you back. If the Scatman can do it, then so can you. Scooby-Doo pop. But it's so in my head.
Did you bring
I
that up so you could show that you know
Yeah.
Scatman lyrics?
There might be a Hollywood scout.
Well,
Hit that hole in the bottom of the sea. Get that one.
hole in the bottom of the sea.
The one there, like it's a hole in the bottom of the sea. Hit
Oh,
that.
you're talking about the Rattling Bog.
Yeah.
Tree in the hole, in the hole, in the bog down in the. Yes. Cons, what's your song?
well, mine's in Spanish. For some reason,
Oh.
Maggie, she starts smiling and clapping and getting excited for Los Politos dicen Pio Pio.
Who's that by?
Canciones infantiles en español.
Oh,
Ah, and that's her
wow.
jam.
Yes.
That's a West Point
Oh,
kid. It's an
the
into
little
foreign
chick says-
languages.
You know what's funny? Were you joking? Like, she's gonna end up in like international finance, coming out of daycare, freaking bilingual, trilingual, and she's just gonna crush it because what and some of her teachers, their English is a second language, but it's great because they speak English fluently. But I think they also probably speak Spanish a little bit, so I think she just picks it up. I don't know where the heck she heard this song. But I'm telling you, you throw this on and it is a transformation. It's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
Now, mine might sound a little inappropriate, but 2-year-olds don't know the words, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back that ass up.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
It's funny the tunes that they really
Mhm.
get hooked on.
And Kelsey was more of a into club.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Little
that was
50
the time.
Cent action.
Yeah, can't go wrong with these tunes.
Anything else, Cons?
No, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Kate?
As per usual, I'm always in a rut. Am I not, guys?
Mm.
I just live in a rut.
Mm.
And I'm always trying to get out of my ruts. And then sometimes I do for a minute, sometimes I don't. My newest thing to get out of the current rut is to find things on Chicago telephone poles and do them. Because have you seen the poles around here? They're covered in like events and advertisements and like whatever. And so last week
I don't know if I've ever read a telephone pole ad ever.
Oh, I'm always reading them. And so I decided, especially in our neighborhood over where we live, it's like up and coming. And so there's like, it's like artsy still. So there's like all kinds of wacky shit going on. But I started doing it last week. And the first day it was a fax number where you faxed them a band name and then they faxed you a band name.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a good.
Yeah.
What do we mean?
Okay.
Fax.
Well, I called and it was a fax machine. I had to fax the name over.
Where
So
did
you
you
went
go?
down to like Kinko's?
What did you go to FedEx printing?
No, we
or-
have one, not to brag. Pat has one in his office. So
Why?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that man does. I don't know what he does.
Fax machine.
But it's like one of those
Ooh.
printers that doubles as a fax machine. No, it's pretty simple. There's nothing. It's not that
Yeah, but
crazy.
you don't have to fax things anymore. You can just scan documents and send them.
But the noise is
Listen,
cool.
the
Does it still make the
telephone-
noise?
The telephone pole said, "Send a band name, get a band name with a number."
Wait, so time out. Do you have a landline in your house then?
No. Well, that
Okay.
would. I guess this would explain why I never got a reply.
Okay.
Anyway, my band name was Matta Baby.
Oh, what's the matter, baby?
Nothing. Not
Uh-huh.
cool.
Mhm.
Now day 2 was it was Spotify. It was just a big ad to listen to a song on Spotify by a band called The Children's Crusade, which is just one guy who's like 20 who's really into electronica. And so I sat there, I listened to it, I said, hey, great song. And it was since that was so easy, I followed a cat. There was also a cat to follow on Instagram.
Have you, speaking of that, have you heard of Obscura Vinyl?
No, but yeah, you sent me some of their wacky songs.
Have you, Cons?
No.
All right, I'm gonna play it. I don't know if this is gonna get us flagged, but I'm gonna play it anyway. This might be my current favorite song. Are you ready?
I come to my bubbles. Shame on you. Twice. Shame on you.
Yeah.
So I've been playing that basically nonstop while I drive. And there's another
that.
one about pulling your nipples.
See,
Like
it's
that one too.
exciting to discover.
It
new
is.
things.
I'm getting back into music.
Well, guys, so day 3. Sorry,
I
guys.
heard music's cool, man.
Yeah, it's fucking sick. Art too.
It was an astrologist, Molly, the astrologist. I called her. This was last week. Guess who I'm meeting tomorrow morning at a cafe?
The
Who?
astrologer?
The astrologist, $150. But she said she's going to give me new imagery to restart my life brain over again. And I had to give her all this personal information. So hopefully I'm not getting scammed. Now, the other one, I was coming out of PT.
You
up in
must
Old
have been the
Town.
most fun person to give monthly counselings to. Like just
Yeah.
like what are you getting into financially?
Yeah.
I joined a gym and I only went one. Do you still pay for that?
I finally canceled it the other day. I was paying, I don't want to tell you how much for a gym. I only went to one time, once. Anyway, the last one, it was for this game called Mercenaries of Gradaris. And it was this guy, there was a picture of a guy with like a clown nose. It was like, Mike Hammer, I'm the creator of this game, Mercenaries of Gradaris. So I went to the Kickstarter, I bought it. It's coming in the mail. And it's like a Dungeons and Dragons game, but it only takes like 15 to 30 minutes.
Oh.
So that's coming in the mail. He's like, yeah, I went down a rabbit hole on social media, lost his job, COVID, got super depressed, got real into like gaming, nerd gaming, said with love, and created this game. He has a trailer for it where all his friends play goblins and there's like a magical mop and all this stuff. And they just released they just had their release party 3 days before I found the poll. They've invited me to the next one.
Oh.
And I'm already I had a great talk with the astrologist on the phone already. I think I've already made a friend with the astrologist. I'm about to make some gamer friends.
Well, you paid her $150.
I'm going to
Yeah.
pay her $150.
Yeah.
If I like what I hear.
What are you hoping to hear?
The things are gonna get better.
That's
I should
BetterHelp.
probably do
H-E-L-P.
Seriously.
Yeah, you're right.
Why don't
You're
you,
right. You know
why
what?
don't you
There's
pocket that
signs.
150 and just call BetterHelp, please?
Please don't stop sponsoring
Please.
us. I will also be doing that.
Oh my
Continue that.
goodness.
But anyway, it's been exciting to find the things on these polls and to do them. And even the music artists that I've been listening to, whatever, we're already like chatting it with each other on the thing. So this could be a fun thing.
I will say along those similar lines, I've never really been part of Facebook groups.
Yeah.
Other than there's a Facebook group for my graduating class from school, and that is pretty standard in terms of stuff that gets shared around there, and it doesn't really deviate from too many different topics. But I'm in the Westfield Dads Facebook group.
Oh, yeah.
Anything under the sun, man. It all
Mhm.
goes in there. You need a contractor, you need a T-ball coach.
Yep.
You need recommendations for
Anybody want to come
massage
make some
therapist.
built-ins in my
Yeah.
house? Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy what goes on there, and I've yet to post in there. I haven't had a reason. I am just like a voyeur. I'm like just observing what's going on in the Westfield
That's great.
Dads group.
Kate does that in a lot of Facebook groups.
Oh, big time lurker. Huge. It keeps me on the pulse of the court and what's going on with the ladies and all that stuff.
Not
Yeah,
just that, the scumbag dudes that are in Chicago.
Oh, the don't date him pages and all that shit. Oh, big time.
Mhm.
Yep. Fellas, you better watch yourselves.
I'm concerned. Is that it?
Oh, one more thing.
Okay.
I big step. I waxed my own mustache this morning.
Hey,
Can you tell
all
him I'm
right.
still irritated?
No, he didn't look irritated. Looks great.
I was so nervous.
I almost
to do it.
commented on it. I was like, hey, you don't
Really?
have a mustache yet.
I was so nervous. I've had the little box in my medicine cabinet for so long. Go on.
I'm curious. I'm sorry, that just sparked a memory for me. I meant to ask you, and if I'm putting you on the spot, I'm sorry, but that's just what we do here. You posted on your Instagram story the other day, you were like shopping for clothes and you're
Oh,
like trying to
God.
figure out a new style or something.
Yeah. I have the same 3 pairs of tights I've had for the last 5 years. And all I wear, which I love, is my Barstool hoodies,
Mhm.
which is great.
Yeah.
But like every now and then you want to feel like kind of different, like, nice.
Yeah, you want to rid
Right.
yourself up.
And
You want to feel
also,
like you're not in sweats.
this physical thing has like legit changed the whole shape of my body. So nothing is fitting me the same anymore. Even my pants aren't fitting me the same anymore. So I was like, I need all new clothes and stuff. I have one bra. You should see this thing. It is raggedy ass bitch of a bra. It is done for the last, I've had this bra for like 5 years now. It is hanging on by there. So anyway, I was like, I'm going to revamp and redo, but what are moms wearing these days? It's tough to tell.
It is tough to tell.
I offer
Yeah.
a suggestion.
Yes.
Maybe you've done this, maybe you haven't. I think there are some other women and moms specifically at Barstool that could assist you here.
Oh,
rather
Megan
than,
Making
like,
Money's helping.
Oh, she's helping.
Oh,
All the
great.
women here have like taken me on like a stray dog they found in the
Cool.
alley.
Great.
What shoes
yeah.
are you wearing today, Kate? You got your good shoes.
What
Look
has
at
she
her.
got here?
Oh, that's different from yesterday.
Oh, no. Kate.
Ugh.
Katie
in a million
shoes.
years, I never would have seen you wearing those. That's awesome.
I got
Katie
a pair of
kicks.
leopard print Adidas
What?
kicks that I'm wearing tomorrow, maybe. If I'm feeling
Good
crazy.
God. Don't
I will say, have
don't
you
let
all
Kate
noticed
get hot.
over the years how everybody at Barstool, they all start to kind of dress alike?
Hoodies.
Everyone's
not even just hoodies,
everyone's becoming Rudy. In a,
Oh, is that what it
Rudy
is?
light
Yeah.
over here
Or
in
Feidelberg.
Chicago. Yeah,
No,
that's
well,
the goal.
John
of
does his
people.
own thing. John has a lot of style, but it's
Yeah,
his
I'm
own
not
style.
nearly
Whereas
cool enough to wear that.
I think other people kind of gravitate towards a little bit less
Eccentric.
risky or
Yeah.
or what's the word I'm looking for?
Eccentric?
Eccentric,
Mhm.
yes, style. And I think also by default, people wear a lot of our sponsors because they're all so great. I mean, shoot, I'm wearing
Roback's the
Roback right now.
Yes, dude. Yes.
Mhm.
But I always just found that funny. And this isn't a new development. This is just something that's happened. Like you could see the trends that come and go at Barstool in terms of what everyone's wearing. And then everyone more or less dresses the same.
Yep. That it?
Mustache pole, Chicago pole mom on TikTok. It's just me, but that's what I'm calling myself now. So give me some love.
That could be seen a couple different ways.
That's the point. I
Yeah.
want to trick you into following.
Mine, I'm worried that Annalise is going to have to use a lot of better help because we got our first little round of cicadas are showing up.
Oh,
And
shit.
it's-
Right out of your lawn.
It's going to be cicada apocalypse.
For
And
those who don't know, normally just one brood pops up in certain areas of the country a year.
the 13 or 17 year.
Chicago has like 6 different broods that have all synced up, and there's gonna be like what 5
It's
trillion?
the entire country, Kate. There's like a whole swath, well, like east of the Mississippi is going to be that way.
and they're coming up out of your yard.
Well, Annalise found in one area, I think it was still outside of Chicago, but she showed me this TikTok and it is revolting. Like how, and I'm not even nervous about bugs, scared about bugs or anything like that. They don't make me feel any kind of way. They zoomed in on this one person's yard. I swear to God, every 2-3 inches, there was one.
Don't.
Dude,
And
I
these
remember-
fuckers, these big ones, the 17 year, dude, they're like 2.5 inches long. I thought they were going to be
They're massive.
small. They're huge.
No,
You've
they're
never
massive.
seen a cicada?
No, I've seen them, but like I guess the Texas ones are kind of like the Texas
Guess
deer
not
with their little
everything's
bitch.
bigger in Texas. huh?
No, nothing's bigger in Texas apparently.
I remember. I think I was maybe 7th or 8th grade is when the last time we got them real bad in this area, and I can remember being on an enclosed basketball court and the entire chain link fence,
Oh
the
yeah.
entire thing
Mhm.
covered in cicadas, and yeah, they're like yay big and just noisy as all get out. So pray for your wife.
Well, do you remember? I think it was the Minnesota Twins were playing a game. Could not be Minnesota. Maybe it was the Brewers, but they somewhere in this region. And it was the last time there was big swaths, and they fly too. Like cicadas will fly around. We're playing a baseball game, and the pitcher threw the ball and hit like 4 or 5 cicadas on the way to home plate. They had to pause the game because the swarm was so unbelievably huge. I don't know, like all my neighbor ladies are so nervous about this. I'm not sure people are going to go for a walk because it's so bad. So bad.
Yeah, I remember riding my bike, and we had these hills behind my neighborhood, and doing this little trail, and they were just flying up everywhere. Probably the same year that you had them when you were a kid, and I like, poof, the screams I scrumped. Okay.
Oh yeah, we didn't get to say it last week, by the way. Happy Mother's Day, Kate. I think we all like.
Ah, yes, thank you.
Oh, we didn't say it? I thought we said it.
Did
But
we?
thank you, Cons. I've been holding on to it deeply. Oh no, we did kind of because I was like, moms in the military are awesome.
Yeah, then I tried to say dads too.
No, and they're not. It's
Right,
just the
yeah,
moms.
no,
just the
they're
moms are
not.
cool.
Last thing
Yeah.
before we go. Today is May 14th while we are recording. This would have been my 20-year retirement date.
Holy shit.
Wow, that's
I know.
crazy.
I know.
And
I-
instead, you're doing your 608th episode of Zero Blog 30.
That's exactly right. And I told Annalise this morning, and 1, she didn't give a fuck. And 2, I said, how much do we owe to First Sergeant Lugo, who, whenever they were saying that they were going to retire me and I said I was going to fight it, when I called him, he was like, Devil Dog, stop being a dumb piece of shit and take it. You're going to get the same amount as if you would have done this for 20 years and go do something else and go do great things. And I don't know if I ended up doing great things, but I ended up having a great life, living in Chicago, working a dream job. And none of that happens if I fight that retirement. Like there is definitely days that I wish that I could have done a full career, but then I look at the life that I have, the wife that I have, the family that I have, and none of those things happen if I stayed in.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that I'm out, but also makes me feel old as fuck to be able to be retired.
I will never get over seeing some of my peers with high ranks now. Like it's
Yeah.
so fucking weird.
One of my buddies is the
Weird.
complete monitor for the entire MP field, and he's a master sergeant now.
Yeah,
Dude, my buddies are battalion commanders.
Yeah.
That's
And
gotta be
lieutenant
weird.
colonels, and almost like some are like on the brink or maybe have already been promoted to colonel. When I was in college and colonels would come around practice, you'd have a lieutenant colonel for a teacher. Like, damn, that dude's old as hell.
Yeah,
and
now
now,
we're
wait, but I don't feel that old.
I don't
Yeah.
think, do we look that old?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
I was talking with Big Cat about this. I see other parents all the time who are younger than me and look younger than me, and they're with their kids, and I'm like, oh, that's like an older, like that's a real grown up. That's a real mom. Because I don't feel like I'm even as old as they are, and they're younger than me. Like,
I'm sure that
I don't-
everybody has imposter syndrome. You
I
have
have
no
gray
idea
hair.
what's going on.
Yeah. But anyway,
All right.
interesting.
That's it. Sound the retreat.